After the first European explorers disappeared from these shores, nearly 100 years passed. Then, in the early 17th century, France returned with an ambitious dream. This time, the goal was not simply to explore. The goal was to build a permanent colony in the heart of North America. A colony that would grow through trade, diplomacy, faith, and powerful alliances with indigenous nations. This colony became known as New France. At the center of this story stood one remarkable man, Samuel de Champlain. In 1608, Champlain sailed up the Great St. Lawrence River and founded Quebec City. He chose a steep cliff called Cap Diamant, overlooking the river below. It was an ideal defensive position and a perfect gateway to the interior of the continent. Champlain was much more than an explorer. He was a gifted cartographer, diplomat, strategist, and visionary. He believed that France could establish a lasting presence in North America, but he understood an essential truth. New France could not survive without the support of indigenous peoples who already knew this land intimately. Champlain formed strong alliances with the Innu, Algonquin, and the Wendat Confederacy. These nations were sophisticated societies with extensive trade networks, military strength, and deep geographic knowledge. They taught the French how to travel the rivers, survive the winters, and navigate the interior. In return, the French provided trade goods and military support. Together, they faced a powerful rival to the south, the Iroquois Confederacy. In 1609, Champlain joined his indigenous allies in battle near what is now Lake Champlain. Using an arquebus, an early firearm, he helped defeat Iroquois warriors. Using an arquebus, an early firearm, he helped defeat Iroquois warriors. The economic engine of New France was the fur trade. In Europe, beaver pelts were transformed into elegant felt hats that were highly fashionable and extremely profitable. In Europe, beaver pelts were transformed into elegant felt hats that were highly fashionable and extremely profitable. Demand for fur was enormous. The beaver became one of the most valuable animals in the Atlantic world. French merchants, indigenous trappers, and voyageurs built a vast commercial network across forests, rivers, and lakes. Among the most famous traders were the Coureurs des Bois, meaning runners of the woods. These adventurous young Frenchmen paddled thousands of kilometers by canoe into the interior of North America. They traveled with indigenous guides and often lived for months or years among indigenous communities. They traveled with indigenous guides, learned new languages, and in many cases married indigenous women. These relationships helped create new cultural connections and strengthened the trade network that sustained New France. Life for ordinary settlers was challenging. Most colonists were farmers, soldiers, craftsmen, and traders. They settled along the St. Lawrence River in long, narrow farms known as seigneuries. This system allowed families to have direct access to the river, which served as the colony's main transportation route. Wooden homes, churches, barns, and mills gradually appeared along the riverbanks. Winters were severe, isolation was common, and disease remained a constant threat, yet settlers persevered. The Catholic Church played a central role. Missionaries sought to convert indigenous peoples to Christianity. Nuns founded schools and hospitals that served both settlers and indigenous communities. One of the most influential leaders was François de Laval, who organized the church in New France. As the colony expanded, new leaders arrived. Among the most famous was Louis de Frontenac. Known for his bold personality, Frontenac defended the colony against both indigenous and British enemies. To encourage population growth, Louis XIV sent hundreds of young women known as the filles du roi, or king's daughters. These women received financial assistance to travel to New France, marry settlers, and start families. These women married settlers and started families, shaping the French-speaking population of Canada. By the end of the 17th century, New France stretched from the Atlantic coast to the Great Lakes and down the Mississippi River toward the Gulf of Mexico. It was one of the largest colonial territories in North America. Its forts and missions connected distant regions into a vast French empire, but challenges lay ahead. The population was far smaller than the British colonies, and competition for power was intensifying. New France emerged through a complex partnership between European ambition and indigenous knowledge, diplomacy, and strength. Together, these relationships created a unique French-Canadian culture that still shapes Canada today. But another empire was rising. In Episode 3, The Conquest, we will explore the fall of New France. Thank you for watching Episode 2. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Tell us in the comments what fascinates you most. Until next time.